It's the 1930s and Korea is under the rule of the Japanese Empire. A girl named Tamako is preparing to leave her home to work for a Japanese heiress. As a handmaiden, she will sleep in the room next to the heiress. That evening, the lady has a nightmare, and Tamako quickly jumps to check on her. She gives the lady sake to help her sleep, and she lies next to her to sing her a lullaby. The next day, Lady Hideko asks if she looks pretty, and Tamako mentions what Count Fujiwara always says, that Lady Hideko has a pretty face, and he always thinks of her. Count Fujiwara is the one who recommended Tamako to the heiress. He is a con man who pretends to be a Japanese nobleman. He forged Tamako's papers so she could be hired as handmaiden and execute their plan. Tamako, whose real name is Suki, is actually a pickpocket, raised by a con woman who take abandoned babies and sell to Japan. Fujiwara offers her a large sum of money once their plan succeeds. Tamako's role is to persuade Lady Hideko to fall in love with the Count. Once they get married, Count Fujiwara will declare her insane so he could have all her fortune for himself. However, Hideko's uncle and guardian, Kuzuki, is also eyeing for the lady's fortune, and he is planning to marry his own niece. Tamako's experience in taking care of abandoned babies quickly endears her to Lady Hideko, who soon becomes comfortable with her, and perhaps too comfortable. The handmaiden, on the other hand, starts falling for the heiress. Count Fujiwara visits the estate and speaks with Tamako in private to discuss their scheme. He instructs the handmaiden to find a way for him and Lady Hideko to be alone once he gives the signal. One evening, Lady Hideko dresses up Tamako like a lady, and she compliments her beauty, making the handmaiden blush. While undressing the lady, Tamako asks about her marriage with her uncle. Hideko confirms this, and she is even aware that Kuzuki is only after her fortune. The handmaiden suggests marrying someone else like Count Fujiwara, and Lady Hideko scolds her for being nosy. One day, while Lady Hideko is painting, the Count starts seducing her, and later gives Tamako the signal. While walking through the woods, Lady Hideko shares how her mom died while giving birth to her. She feels guilty for it and wished that she was never born. As Tamako consoles her, she starts feeling sorry for the poor lady, but she has a job to do. She asks the lady to wait while she picks some mushrooms, and moments later, Count Fujiwara arrives and starts doing the plan. As she goes back, Tamako finds the lady and the Count being romantic with each other. The handmaiden runs away angrily, seemingly heartbroken. She tries to avoid the lady, but Hideko calls for her that evening and asks to sleep beside her. Lady Hideko reveals the Count's proposal to run away to Japan. Feeling inexperienced about men's desires, Lady Hideko seeks guidance from Tamako, who demonstrates kissing and lovemaking under the pretext of preparing her for the Count. Their encounter becomes their first experience, with both women falling in love with each other. During a painting session, the Count instructs Tamako to find another task, but she refuses, saying that her sole responsibility is looking after Lady Hideko. The Count later scolds her for not aiding his plan. He threatens to expose her as a pickpocket, and Tamako counters with a threat to reveal that he is a con man. Count Fujiwara reminds her of her family waiting for the money, and Tamako has no choice but to comply and follow the plan. She continues convincing Lady Hideko that she is falling in love with the Count, but the lady discloses that she is in love with someone else. When the handmaiden convinces her to marry Fujiwara, Hideko gets mad and pushes her out. Despite this, Lady Hideko still agrees to run away to Japan as long as Tamako will go with her. They sneak one evening, and the three rides a ferry until they reach Japan, where Lady Hideko and Count Fujiwara gets married. The Count then goes away to process their marriage papers and secure Hideko's inheritance. He returns a week later with her fortune. To finalize their scheme, he brings in two men from the mental institute, intending to claim that Lady Hideko has gone insane. The group heads to the mental hospital, where Tamako bids farewell to the Countess. However, they unexpectedly seize her instead. They think that she is the Countess, and Hideko is the handmaiden. Despite her protests that she is not Lady Hideko, the Count and the lady remain passive, offering no defense as Tamako struggles. Lady Hideko's childhood is marked by cruelty. As a young girl, she endures harsh punishment from her uncle. The only person good to her is her aunt. However, she seems to be mentally disturbed at times. Every day, Hideko practices reading explicit books in front of her uncle. A small mistake from her ensues a punishment for them. It is her aunt's job to read these books to the buyers. But one day, she ended her life by hanging herself at the big cherry tree. When Hideko grew up, she replaced her aunt's role in reading the explicit passage to the collectors. To persuade them to buy, Lady Hideko performs sadistic demonstrations from the book, enticing the buyers with the story. As the auction unfolds, Kuzuki is happy to have sold his precious books. The con man posing as Count Fujiwara is involved in this scheme. He is hired by Kuzuki to forge the books so he can sell the fake ones to the buyers. One evening, the Count sneaks into Lady Hidiko's room. He confesses that he is not a nobleman, but a son of a Korean farm worker. He trained for years to master forgery so he could meet the lady. He admits to her his initial plan of seducing and stealing her inheritance. But seeing how impossible it is to seduce Hidiko, he proposes an alternative deal to rescue her from her uncle, then split the money afterwards. Hidiko is afraid that her uncle might still be able to find them, so she devises a plan to hire a handmaiden who they will send to a mental institution under Lady Hidiko's name. That handmaiden happens to be Tamako. Lady Hidiko pretends to be an innocent and vulnerable woman, concealing the furious demeanor she displays in front of the other maids. Meanwhile, the gullible Tamako is starting to believe that Count Fujiwara's plan is falling into place. As she witnesses their intimate moment in the woods, Tamako thought that the lady has fallen for the Count, but it turns out to be just part of their act to convince the poor handmaiden. However, Lady Hidiko starts to think that Tamako really loves her, and she herself is falling for the handmaiden too. She tells the Count that she wants to quit, but Fujiwara tells her that Tamako will only choose money over her. That evening, the handmaiden convinces Lady Hidiko to marry the Count, and this makes her mad and disappointed. Heartbroken, Lady Hidiko tries to end her life, but Tamako stops her. The handmaiden apologizes and confesses their scheme to make her marry the Count. Seeing that Tamako really cares for her, Lady Hidiko admits that the one being tricked is actually her. She tells Tamako about their plan to put her to the mental institution under her name so she and the Count can run away with the money. Angry about the Count's trickery, Tamako writes to her adoptive mother that there is a change of plan, and that she is now teaming up with Lady Hidiko. While Kazuki is away, Lady Hidiko shows her handmaiden the books that her uncle makes her read in front of other men. Seeing how perverse they are, Tamako gets mad and destroys all of Kazuki's collection. As the two women prepare for Hidiko's escape, they experience a brief moment of freedom, running through fields and laughing. However, the scene abruptly shifts to Tamako being placed in the mental institute. Contrary to expectations, Hidiko appears seemingly unaffected. Hidiko and Count Fujiwara celebrate their success at a fancy restaurant. Hidiko asks if he is concerned about the handmaiden's well-being, and the Count says he will never pity her. Meanwhile, in the mental institute, a fire is deliberately set by Tamako's family, and this provides her an opportunity to escape. Back at a hotel, Hidiko drips a substance into a wine glass. She goes to the Count's room and says she wants to thank him for everything. The two start to get intimate, until Fujiwara suddenly passes out. After waking up, the Count finds himself being taken by two thugs back to Korea. Tamako and Hidiko finally reunite, and they forge a fake ID for Lady Hidiko as a man. She then sends a letter to her uncle, revealing the true identity of Fujiwara and delivering him as a gift. Discovering the betrayal, Kazuki takes the imposter Count to his basement and tortures him, cutting off his fingers with a paper trimmer. Fujiwara asks for a break by lighting his cigarette. Moments later, Kazuki continues torturing him, on his way to cutting his manhood. That is when Fujiwara reveals that his cigarette is filled with mercury. As the old man succumbs to the poisonous smoke, the Count inhales more of it to finally end his life. Meanwhile, the two women are already in a ferry to Shanghai. Hidiko removes her fake mustache as she and her handmaiden-turned-lover are now finally free from the grasp of men who only used them for their benefit. Did you like our movie recap? Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. To be updated for new movie recaps, hit the notification bell.